Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's album review, surprise, is on Cleanse, Fold, and Manipulate by Skinny Puppy, their 1987 album, which is their fourth album. Remission, Bites, and I always forget Mind the Perpetual Intercourse, right? So their fourth album. I'm all skinny puppied out for the review too. Like I got my shirt on, brought out my cassette. Um, got a copy here. Also got a copy up here. My original copies and my skinny puppy hat. I'm all ready for the review. Excited about this review too. This is my second skinny puppy album that I'm actually gonna review. Of course, this was actually the first Skinny Puppy album that I heard in 1987 when it came out, 87, 88. My brother had brought it home from one of his. He was in 8th grade, and I was in 6th grade, and one of his friends told him about it, and he brought it home, and we went crazy for it. It was a game changer. Listening to Skinny Puppy was a game changer. Probably there's a few bands in my life that kind of changed my view for liking darker electronics, darker sounds, industrial sounds, spooky stuff, darker stuff, which I've followed through the last 40 years almost, into dark ambient stuff that I listen to, darker techno, dark wave, cold wave, etc. Skinny Puppy was one of the origins of what got me interested in it, along with probably Susie and the Banshees, like Tinderbox and Dazzle, and then probably certainly the Cure were a little bit in there with pornography and all around, when I first heard those in 85, 86, 87. So yeah, it was super important for me, and this one. In some ways, this always felt like my brother's favorite album of Skinny Puppy, and then sort of Viva Six was also sort of his, and then Rabies was his favorite, and then mine was sort of Too Dark Park, because Too Dark Park came in when I was 14 years old, and that was kind of, my brother sort of bought the cassettes up to that point, and then I bought Too Dark Park on CD, and that sort of changed. I started taking over the buying responsibilities for music, through those years. But my brother was always, which was rare because my brother didn't buy a lot of music, but when, but the one that he did bought consistently, at least through the first 3 or 4 albums, was Skinny Puppy, and but me and my brother always had a really strong connection with Skinny Puppy. We've probably seen them, I think 8 or 9 times over the last 30 some years. I first saw them I saw them on almost every tour after when they came back, but saw them in '92 at the Hollywood Palladium. I saw them at Knitting Factory, 2004, their return gig. Saw them in 2007, Mythmaker. Saw them in 2009. Saw them on the Seasolvent tour, 2010. Saw them at there's a poster up here at the very top, up here. It's hard to point up there when you're behind. I Spy tour. Down with the Sociopaths on that one, and then there was another one in there I saw. I think the Frontline Assembly one. I think was I Spy one, but I also saw the one with Youth Code. I think that was that one too. But there was another one in there, and I think it was the Shapes tour, Shapes and Arms tour, or Arms and Shapes tour, and then I saw them on their final tour. I guess that was last year. So yeah, I was just huge fan, and so it's with a grain of salt that I rate these albums. I'm kind of biased on them, but I think I am pretty fair. So let's get into the album and rate it. Overall, the songs that I like most on here, there's a couple classics in here for sure. Addiction and Deep Down Trauma Hounds are 2 of the classics of their first few years for sure. Ones that they play pretty regularly on their tours for the most part. In fact, I think besides maybe the last tour, the final tour was probably the only time I didn't hear Addiction in a live set. I think their last couple of tours they may have not, so maybe there was two of them in there, but it was always a staple of their concerts. You know, always generally played early in the set. Was always one that everybody could look forward to. One that every Skinny Puppy fan loves. Addiction. Um, and then there's a few cult classics on here for me, anyways. First Aid, I love, and Terror Beat. But yeah, the overall good. There's some really classic songs in those as well. The band doesn't get enough respect for their dance music appeal in this time. Like, I remember when this album came out and some of the beats and stuff, they were more hip than hip hop beats. There's definitely like a urban dance appeal with a lot of the Skinny Puppy music. You know, whether it be their 12-inch remixes or just Kevin Key has always been a really good programmer, and even better atmosphere, even better in choosing the type of equipment he uses. Dave Ogilvy and aka Rave, and certainly Dwayne Gotel in there as well, have always been really good with balancing out the studio and them live as well with Dwayne. Um, but Kevin Key kind of went from a raw production to really, this was his more well-rounded, up to the time, more well-rounded job with the album. He did a masterful job with the movie samples, and in many ways it was kind of groundbreaking. He doesn't get enough respect for that. There's a lot of people that get respect for their sampling, whether it be DJ Shadow or a hip hop artist or something like that. But there's been a lot of sound collage and experimental and industrial music before Skinny Puppy, whether it be Throbbing Gristle or what have you, or even if it's or danceable stuff like Chris and Cozy or DAF or what have you. Or Cabaret Voltaire, Severed Heads, etc. There's always been a lot of danceable stuff. Severed Heads did some sampling and stuff like that, but Skinny Puppy doesn't get enough credit for how groundbreaking Kevin was with the sampling and sampling horror movies throughout this record. Which I'm not a huge horror movie fan, but for many, I was thinking most that would listen to this album, it brings a higher level of spookiness to their music. It's funny when you show people Skinny Puppy's music a lot of times, and they're like, "Well, this is pretty dark." If you want a good laugh, look up Skinny Puppy Reaction. There's a gentleman that one of those reaction channels. I actually like Trey. He does a good job. He's very honest. He's an African American gentleman, or I guess we can say black now. I guess it's okay to say black people now. But he, I sent him probably like 5 or 6, maybe 7 Skinny Puppy songs to react to. He had never heard them before. I sent him like Addiction, Assimilate, The Choke. I think Deadlines. And so I was showing him a little bit of the earlier ones, and he kind of liked it, but he didn't really like the voice. But he was very honest about it. And I was going to show him more throughout their career and kind of move on from there, and then kind of go. And then I was just like, I was like, oh well, he doesn't really like it. I'm not going to overload him with a bunch of Skinny Puppy ones. I'll just send him 2 new ones, and I sent him Illicit and I think one of the other tracks from Weapon, because they were newer and they were a little bit more straightforward, more to somebody who's maybe a little bit newer and not so with the vintage industrial like I am, and really respecting the sound and he's more, or somebody who's younger would more appreciate the more straightforward industrial music, and I figured he would get a kick out of it by watching I think it was the Illicit video also, which is a really cool video. But the one with the breakdancing, the other video with the breakdancing. So I sent him that one and then Illicit from Weapon. And he really enjoyed those ones. I think he respected them on a different level, and their evolution of their sound and just technology moving with Skinny Puppy to kind of meet their sound a little bit more, which I can understand his point of view. I don't necessarily fully agree with, but I can see his point of view. But I thought by sending him to him that he would understand sort of the hip hop beats and the urban beats and sort of be like, wow, this is kind of scary. This is what I thought he would say. This is kind of scary. I kind of like the melody, but these beats are pretty cool for the time. I thought he would kind of say that and appreciate that. Um, what he did end up saying was like the voice is kind of puts me off a little bit. I do like some of the melodies and the rhythms, but he didn't really say anything about the beat. And I was kind of okay, whatever. But he was kind of like, if you see him like listening to the choke or something like that or something, he does like the rhythm or something like that. But I guess you kind of had to been around it in 1987 or 1988, 1990. It's a little harder to put in retrospect. Maybe if I would have sent him the remixes, it'd been a little bit more so. But yeah, I think they don't get enough respect for their dance appeal. And check out those videos of him reviewing some of those. I'm in some of the notes too with my other uh, YouTube account, but yeah, check them out because they're interesting and see some of these kind of. I think he's like the only. There's a couple other people. I think there was one Middle Eastern kid who did a couple Skinny Puppy songs, and there was an African American guy, and then there was that really annoying African American guy with the girlfriend. They do a Skinny Puppy one. They're super annoying, but those are the only ones I can remember. There's a couple other people doing a Skinny Puppy one, but for the most part, he was the one who did the most of them, and he did like 6, 7, or 8 of them or something like that. But check him out if you get a chance. Um, but yeah, they don't get Kevin Key doesn't get enough respect for his sampling in this album, and he really only did it as much in this album. Like he wouldn't say overboard, but he made some songs out of some samples, which was really cool, and sort of turned them into full blown songs just from being inspired by a sample, which I think is really cool. Um, Horror movies aren't necessarily up my alley per se, but um, I, I do respect what he did. They aren't necessarily ideally in my range of sounds when it comes to like more ambient music or something like that, But I do like darker music, but it's kind of has like a film score, like a older film, because some of the films are a little bit older, or that they took them from, so they're not really necessarily, it's kind of your more basic horror movie stuff, but they are cool samples of what he says, and sometimes they actually go with the music of what the song is talking about, which is even cooler. So not only is he pulling good samples, making them fit, but then they also go with the lyrics and the idea of the song, right? So that's even cool. That's even cooler. Um, there's a lot of meaningful lyrics about the world's ills in this album. The depth of the sounds, like the keyboards, are awesome. Like in the background to Addiction, Novek's vocals really kind of. I think when I think of the first 3 albums, it's really kind of his lyrics are kind of part of the rhythm. Like I really feel like in Cleanse, Fold, and Manipulate, he's now a front man. Like you get that a little bit in Remission, you get that a little bit, but Cleanse, Fold, and Manipulate, he really steps out and he's really got even more to say, and it just feels like like his kind of coming out party in this album, with what he wants to talk about as well. The artwork is amazing. David G, amazing artist, did an awesome job on this record. Um, always one of my favorite. Always one of my favorite Skinny Puppy covers. Just awesome. The 12 inches for Addiction are really cool too. Dig it. I mean, almost every artwork they've ever had was phenomenal. Um, as far as the opportunity, well, I'll come back to the opportunities on this. Let's go to the songs. First Aid, 4.5 stars. One of my all-time favorite Skinny Puppy songs. It's so underrated, but when it came out, like it helped kick off the live album, which I'm blanking on the ain't it dead yet. It sort of kicks off that album, right? So it's always been memorable since I first heard that one and this album. I just love the beat of it. There's a little bit of funk in there. The bass line that's kind of sequenced, and it's just so sick. It's such a sick, and it's also dramatic and kind of with the melody, and it's kind of has that horror kind of feel, but it has such a cool groove to it. I love the lyrics in it. Talking about first aid and AIDS in general, and you know, contacting diseases and hospitals. There's a lot of that in this album. Um, but wow, just an awesome song. 4.5 stars. It's one of my favorite Skinny Puppy songs. It's kind of like you have your classics like your Assimilate and The Choke and Addiction's another one, but then you have like your favorites that are your personal favorites that aren't played as much. They're not as well known. First Aid is in that category for me. My favorite song on this album, and because of Addiction is also a really strong song and a favorite of this album. Considering what it is, I'd probably put it at 4.25. But considering it's for what it is for the band and kind of one of their classics, I also put it at 4.5 stars. So it also has an amazing beat. Kevin's beats just they never get old. They never get old. Like you think of like the choke, right? The choke beat is a really unique rhythm. It never gets old. Like if you think of like Scum on Viva Sex 6, where the beat changes through the song and then becomes a different song, very cool. Like their beats aren't simple. There's such a I want to say funk, and I know people have like funk and industrial, but there's such a groove inside their music that again that I also feel like they're disrespected when it comes to their dance appeal and the history of dance music, but also um, that kind of groove in there is undeniable, and it's what makes their beats better. You listen to like Frontline Assembly or industrial bands in general, they don't have that funk. Now, Front 242 has like an EBM funk. There are some EBM funks. Nitzareb has that. But Skinny Puppy does it in an industrial way, which is very rare. And it's crazy that it's 37 years later and beats like First Aid and Addiction are still as powerful as they are. It'll be interesting to see if these albums will ever get remastered. Like would I don't see that's just like Nivek Org to like leave it how it is, and I feel like he does want to kind of escape, the Skinny Puppy and sort of live the rest of his life and what he wants to do. And I'm sure deep down he's a really nice guy when you meet him, but I'm sure he hates people for the most part and wants to not be around people who, because he's probably sick and tired of meeting people that aren't, real people and that don't respect the things that he is passionate about or whatever it is. He's just I feel like he wants to leave Skinny Puppy at what it is, and it could be their relationship. Him and Nivek and Kevin Key's relationship is probably splintered, or especially over the course of the last 20 years, touring a lot for and especially through like 2010 to 2017, 2018. Like they were touring a lot and produced 5 albums. So they were pretty productive considering. Like it was almost equal to their 84 to 80 to 92 period. It's pretty close when you factor in their touring and all those things. I think there was even a European tour in there as well. But yeah, just very busy. But you can kind of tell like Nivek kind of wants to get away from all the norm and kind of get lost in the Hollywood Hills or whatever he does, and I wouldn't say be a hermit, but just kind of live off the grid and and you know, do his own thing. Whatever that is specifically, just live. Um, but lost my train of thought. But yeah, his beats never get old. Is that what I was talking about? I can't remember. Um, I could talk about Skinny Puppy all day. Um, what was I talking about? Can't remember. Anyways, so Addiction, 4.5 stars. Just the choke, Addiction, first beat or first day. Just always, they always have a little bit of funk in those in their grooves. It just makes their beats timeless. Um, but yeah, both first two tracks, 4.5 stars, really strong. Shadowcast, the beat is kind of like Stairs and Flowers. If you guys know Stairs and Flowers, it's kind of like almost an exact beat. The verses are excellent though, but the choruses are kind of. I got 2 and 3/4 stars. Draining Face is a little bit better. I like the beat, kind of a little bit more spookier. 3 stars. The Morn is really dark. Really like that one too. 3 stars. Second Tooth has a really cool beat. It's kind of dance music that talks about killing, which that's the crazy thing about Skinny Puppy. Like they're talking about killing and they're making you dance. It's just it's a crazy combination for the '80s. Like to talk about what they were talking about and to make you dance. It's just an unusual but very cool. And it just goes to show you it doesn't really matter what they say in songs. The music will ultimately move you. Second Tooth, I like 3.25 stars. Also, Terror Beat. This one's really underrated. I almost gave it 4 stars. It was really close. I feel like it's one of their most underrated songs. I've never heard it live. I think it's a really strong song. I just for some reason I never heard it live and doesn't get enough respect. But I gave it 3 and 3/4 stars. I really like the beat, the groove. What I wouldn't give for an instrumental of Terror Beat. I just I'd love an instrumental of it, original instrumental that is. Love the melody, the rhythm, percussion, sounds are amazing. So funky too. 3 and 3/4 stars. Deep Down Trauma Hounds, I may not like as much as somebody else. I always, I always kind of pair that one with God's Gift Maggot. Excuse me. I like God's Gift Maggot a little bit better than Deep Down Trauma Hounds, but I respect Deep Down Trauma Hounds what it is, and I like it a lot. I do like the remix of Deep Down Trauma Hounds. I can't remember which is what it's called. It's on the 12-inch anthology. I really like that remix better, and it's kind of pushing like 8 minutes, so it's really cool. I'd probably give that one 4 stars, but this one really close, 3 and 3/4 stars, right on the edge of being excellent. And then here's where the album kind of falters a little bit, kind of as far as like judging it for its overall. Anger, the last track, is okay, or it's pretty good. Yeah, I got 2 stars, and then Epilogue is I didn't rate. I didn't, it's just a minute long track, so I didn't rate it. So I think that goes to the benefit because if I rated it, it'd probably only be like a 2 star or something like that. It'd probably bring the average down because there's not really too much to it. But my overall rating, so I got 30.5 stars divided by 9 is the 3.38. So almost 2 and 80, almost 2 and 80. I feel like I settled on 77 out of 100, right on the higher side of very good. Um, as far as the opportunities, what prevented it from not being an 80 or above, there's really only 8 songs. There's 2 short instrumentals, and yeah. So I mean, there's really only 8 tracks, and then I think it's the Morn, right? That's sort of an instrumental. So there's really more like 7 tracks. Sometimes the sound effects are a little bit loud on some parts. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it could be a little bit more in the mix. So some of the sound effects can be a little bit loud, but that doesn't really factor into the scoring a little bit. But I do want to mention that. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But yeah, just maybe another very good song. just one more really strong song, and I think it would be in the 80s for sure. It's just really there's only 8 songs, and then one of them is The Morn, which I think it's The Morn, right? Or Draining Faith. I think it's The Morn, which I don't know if it's a fully a track. It's kind of like, if I'm not mistaken, it's like 2.5 minutes long, like 2 minutes and 50 seconds or something like that. And it has some words in it, but not really. You know what I mean? It's not really too much to it, if I remember correctly. Sometimes I get the titles of these tracks mixed up. Shadowcast, Draining Faces, The Morn. Second Tooth, I always know that one has a cool beat, and then also Anger. Sometimes I get those song titles mixed up because they don't necessarily stand out that much. But a couple of them are good, a couple are very good, but I always get them confused with their names as far as what they sound like, because they're all kind of creepy names, and they aren't played out live, and they aren't like Addiction or First Aid or Deep Down Trauma Hounds are not necessarily classics. So I always kind of forget some of the ones on this album, which isn't like me do. I do that a little bit on that on Bites, because there's so many like 3-minute songs on Bites on the 17 track version of Bites. A few of those I always get kind of confused, like which song is this? Oh, is it Love, or is it this, or was that Christianity? I can't remember which one this is. There's like that a little bit on this album and the other album, but no other album is like that. For me. The rest of their catalog. But yeah, 77 out of 100. Very good album. Very good album. The song's short from being a industrial classic, in my opinion. I gave Bites a 73 out of 100, and this Cleanse, Fold, and Manipulate, this is the second Skinny Puppy album I'm reviewing, 77 out of 100, so a little bit better. Where do I place this without going on my favorite Skinny Puppy albums? I want to say this is probably 4th. Too Dark Park. Oh, Vivus X6. I was blanking on what was the middle one. 3rd or 4th? I don't know. I thought I would like Bites a little bit more. But it's because of I think the highs on Bites are so high, but there's really no consistency through the album. So this one has a more consistency through the album, so I rated it more. I'm not a huge Rabies fan, but I will be interested to see I would imagine that I like it as a full album more so than Bites, but I don't think so more so than Cleanse, Fold, and Manipulate. I'm trying to remember songs that I don't like on Rabies, if there's any. I know Too Dark Park will be my highest rated one, without a doubt. Vivus X6 will be close second too. So yeah, this could be like my 3rd or 4th album. So I would think that would make sense that there's 2 or 3 classic Skinny Puppy albums. I know my brother would rate Rabies over an 80, that's for sure. As far as their new albums, I'd probably put Weapon as the best album of those, and that would probably be in the middle 70s. I do respect that album a lot. The first half of it is really strong. It kind of peters out a little bit in the second half a little bit, but I want to say there's 6 or 7 good tracks on there, but a couple similar to this that are kind of not making it a full album, like I feel like Vivus X6 is. Now, Too Dark Park has a couple of sort of like atmospheric songs, so like Convulsion. That's like a 2-minute song, so that could take away from it a little bit. But one thing that has grown on me about Too Dark Park is Spasmostic. I used to not like Spasmostic. It was kind of too frantic and kind of too hardcore and a little bit too like, I don't know. I love Shoreline Poison, Rash Reflection, and Nature's Revenge, and TFWO, and Shoreline, Morpheus Laughing. Like those 5, I love those. But I never really liked Spasmostic. I like Grave Wisdom too. But Grave Wisdom or TTFO and Spasmostic have grown on me over the course of the last 34 years, making me feel old. But yeah, 77 out of 100 for Cleanse, Fold, and Manipulate. Love me some Skinny Puppy. Alright, thanks for watching. 30 minutes exactly.